All right, so we were speaking about these two levels of teshuvah, how when a person returns, not just repents, right, which is the usual translation for teshuvah. Really, the Hebrew word means to return to his true divine self. Then one may do so in one of two ways. The lower level is when one expresses remorse and, of course, never returns to his sins, etc. The other one is where he grows from his sins. How so? He turns to them and he uses them as a springboard for growth by learning from the experience that the sins gave them, or by, in a way, going back to those areas, to the past, and making it an integral part of the future. Now, there are two, I'm just trying to admit Jordan here. Anyhow, so when a person is able to learn from his sins or to transform his sins, so that, and not only does he learn from them, but maybe he also uses them as again, as a springboard. You don't run away from them. We said that in psychology there are two reactions in general to sin or to anything negative, and that is fight or flight. In Judaism, the ultimate reaction is not to fight and not to flee, but rather to embrace the sin. See not just what they taught you, but also at the same time see how they contributed to the general path that you're in, how in a way you go back to that past and you illuminate it, so that you don't just use it again as a lesson, but you use it in order to transform it. We spoke of the example of Alex Clear, right? Remember that? He was with us about a week ago, and how he came from a past that was, spiritually at least, very, very dark, yet he went back to illuminate it and to bring brightness into that past, into the world of music that he was in. So you don't just learn from it, but you actually transform it. That's the second level of teshuvah, and that's where we're up to. Now that teshuvah, that level is considered to be repentance out of love. You can only embrace with love. And he's going to elaborate and develop this idea. But let's continue here, as you mentioned, Margot, at the bottom of page 192, which is repentance out of love. Does anyone want to read how to achieve the second level? Please, Linda, go for it.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Once again, Linda, you're on mute. On mute.
Okay.
There you go.
This is as opposed to the standard repentance, which is motivated by one of the various levels of awe and fear coming from the depths of the heart. The depths of the heart is what a person truly desires, as opposed to the things he desires only with the more external aspects of the heart. A person might say, I want to study, I want to pray, I want to perform mitzvot, but these might not be what he truly desires. The depths of the heart is what a person would do if nothing were compelling him to act in any specific way, if he were truly free to do whatever he desires. Teshuvah from the depth of the heart is a teshuvah that reaches to the very core of a person's being, transforming his will all the way down to its deepest essence. In its shallower forms, teshuvah achieves a change in the garments of the penitent's heart, redirecting some of the expressions of his will. With teshuvah from the depth of the heart, the very essence of his will is transformed.
Right. Okay, let's just expound on this a little bit. So I remember that in school, in high school, we had an essay to write that was titled I want 3 dots, and we had to fill in the 3 dots. So most classmates wrote, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an accountant, I want to explore the Mount Everest, I want to travel, I want adventures. And then our teacher in the high school yeshiva, Rabbi Steinsaltz, said, I actually gave you this essay not to tell me what you want, but to prove to you that what you want is really not what you want. How so? Because say you want to be a doctor, fine. But maybe what you really want is to heal people. And being a doctor is not the only channel to heal people. It's one channel. Maybe you'll do better in choosing another channel. Or say, for example, you wrote that I want to travel the world. What you're really saying is that you want to explore God's beautiful, the globe. So you don't need to travel the world to do that sometimes. Maybe all you need to do is to look at the mountain in front of you. So, and his point was that you may want things, but in life, you need to know what you really want. Very often you get into things in life, whether it's jobs or hobbies or whatever, because you think you want something. But then you realize that the job becomes confining, or that the hobby is not really so much fun, as fun as you thought it was. You know why? Because it's not really what you wanted. It's an expression of what you wanted. What you really wanted is something else. So you're stuck now with this job, or you're stuck now with this hobby. And therefore in life, you have to think twice before you really say, I want. You have to know what you really want. It's a profound idea, but it's very true. I see it all the time. You know, people become X while they really wanted to be Y. X is just a means, but they thought it was the goal. And that's what Rabbi Stans is saying here. What is teshuvah me'ahava, teshuvah from love? Teshuvah from love is that you've peeled all layers of yourself, that you went to the true desire of yourself. You know what the true desire of yourself is? To connect to God. If the soul is like a flame, we've spoken about this. We spoke about this also during the soul conference, but that's what the soul is. Like King Solomon says, Kiner Hashem nishmat adam. You know what a flame wants? The only desire of a flame is to return to its fire. It wants to leave its wick and to connect to God himself. Not for any particular reason, not for any self-benefit. It will die if it does so. But that's what it desires. What's the teshuvah me'ahava? When I am so myself that I've returned to my deeper self, that I realize that the desire of that deeper self is really only to connect to God, to do whatever God wants me to do, to connect to God and to be alone with God. Not because I want a reward from God, not because I want a nice portion in the world to come, not because God's wisdom is the, you know, very enriching and it's gonna refine my intellect, not for any self reasons. I just want to connect to God because that's my deepest desire. I'm a flame that wants to return to its source. And that's what we really want. All desires in life are in a way triggered by this desire. It's just sometimes distorted, or sometimes it's confined. But that's teshuvah me'ahava, where a person is returned again to his true self. Then now he connects only to the desire of his true self. They say that they found the author of the Tanya that we're studying right now, the Bala Tanya. They found him once. He was a very passionate human being, and they once found him somersaulting on the floor, and in a complete state of ecstasy. And then he was saying during that state of ecstasy that, God, I do not want your world. I do not want your world to come. I do not want your rewards. All I want is you alone. That's all I want. That's the deepest desire of the soul. Okay, not for any, I don't want rewards. I just want to be with you. When you love someone deeply, that's what you do. That's what Rabbi Stels is saying. When you have free time, when you are the master of your time, all you want to do is be with that person. Why? Not because, again, you have any self-benefits, just because that's your deepest desire. And that's the teshuvah me'ahava. Now, of course, it's a very hard level to attain. It's the second deeper level of teshuvah. But that's the real desire of the soul, just to connect to God. And that's the highest level of teshuvah. And that's when we can transform then the past into the future, not the past into the future, but the past into a springboard for growth. Because that past, in a way, is what caused us to say, oh gosh, I feel so disconnected, let me reconnect. Without the feeling of disconnection, we wouldn't have a connection. So in a way, it helped us reach that desire that we wouldn't have reached by ourselves. Again, and that's why Reish Lakish says in the Talmud that when a person reaches that level of teshuvah, he uncovers his deepest desire, the desire of his soul, then zdonot nasot lo zchuyot, which means that his sins turned into positive deeds, to mitzvahs. How could that be? That's because the past, again, was used in a way to heighten and to elevate his levels of spirituality, to elevate his connection with God. That wouldn't have happened without that past. So the past really became a springboard, a part, an integral part of the teshuvah route of that process. Now, again, it's a difficult level to reach, but nonetheless, it's still achievable. Sometimes what we have to do is really remove the ego, and then you'll find the soul. And when you find the soul, you'll hear its deepest desire. Okay, that's the big idea here in this short paragraph. But again, I don't want to be monologuing alone. So if there's any comments, ideas, please feel free to share them. Anyone? Let's then transform this idea into something very practical, and that is that obviously life is full of is busy, it's full of distractions, full of boxes to check and so on, to-do lists. But I really believe that there should be one thing during our day, one deed that we do for God just because. When we do that deed for God just because, whether it's a small mitzvah, like giving a penny to tzedakah, and it's hard for us, but I do it just because. Or whether it's putting tefillin or whatever it may be, really, again, doesn't matter what mitzvah you pick, but you do it just because. Sometimes you don't even want to do it, but you do it just for God. Then you'll be unleashing that deepest desire of the soul. Because really, that's what the soul wants to do. So the way to tap into that soul and its deepest desire is to do one act a day that I do just for God. The more we do it, the more the soul will feel like it's given room for expression. It's therefore being nurtured.
So Rabbi,
yes.
So you're really just, I think you're talking about the way we live our lives, and that I think that doing mitzvot should be part of our daily life, and just the kindness you show strangers, or when you're, one of the things that I've read a little bit is that, when you see somebody homeless on the street, rather than looking away, to actually look at them and smile. To just give them a piece of warmth is truly a mitzvah. So I'm just taking what you're saying in terms of connecting with God, that I think for all of us, we really can and do it in our daily lives if we're just try to be conscious of how we're living our lives.
Absolutely right. But I'm saying that when we do smile at a stranger, we do bring some warmth to someone else, then we should do that not for any ulterior motives.
Right, exactly. There's no other than it's because it makes you feel good. It's actually a kindness to do for somebody else that costs nothing other than a smile. I think that's
right. That's true. But then what I'm saying is go even further and do something that doesn't make you feel good. Do something that you do because making you feel good. Yeah, making you feel good might then go back to me and my ego and my feelings. I want to do something that's purely for God. Even if like you said, it hurts. Even if it hurts, I still do it. Then I know that I've done it for God. And then I know that I've actualized the deepest desire of my soul. That just wants to be with God, the flame that wants to be with the fire. A lot of the things that we do, a lot of the good that we do is excellent and is essential. But very often it's self-oriented. It makes me feel good. It makes me happy. I create happiness, so I'm happy myself. But here I reach a level, I don't care how I feel. It's not about me at all. It's simply about my flame wanting to return to its fire. I'm doing this just because God, you instructed me to do so. Whether I feel good or not, it's not even an equation. I just want to do it because that's my soul's deepest desire, to return to its flame, to be connected to its beloved. Yeah.
I think you're true in saying that, because I had an experience this week where I was just walking outside to take my dog for a walk, and there was a woman coming down the street. And by the way, in Tempe, there's many more people on the street sleeping, and you don't see that in Scottsdale. And this woman was just looked like a nice woman. And I said, "Do you have a home someplace?" And she said, "No, this is my home." And I said, "You wait right here. I will be back in a few minutes." And I ran up here and I got it was cold out, and I got a pants and a top. They were brand new, but I just brought that down. I took some apples and oranges from the refrigerator, and I knew she couldn't hold a lot of things because they only had a little cart. She had a little cart.
Right.
Now, I didn't do that, and I didn't feel that I did that for any reason other than I wanted her to have those things, and that's the thing to do. And I wasn't expecting anything or saying, "Oh God, are you watching me because I'm being a good girl?" or that kind of stuff. It was because and she was, it's, you just do it.
Right.
And it doesn't have to have,
right.
I wasn't doing it to make myself feel good either. I was feeling for her, not for me.
Right. No, very good. Very good. I think the more, again, so to go even further now, the more we tap into that, which is a beautiful act that you did, the more we tap into that, doing things just because, the more our soul, it feels liberated. The more the soul feels liberated, the more, again, we connect to what we spoke about last week. We turn from human beings to divine beings. Then we become divine beings. We become channels for that soul. Soul that does things, not because its ego feels good, not because it's quid pro quo. It's just an exchange. I'll do this, I'll get this in return. No, I do it just because I'm a channel of God in this world. Now, it's a higher level, but I believe that that's the definition of the righteous. The righteous don't do anything for themselves. In a way, they cease to exist as human beings the second they become righteous. From that point on, they're only doing things for God, feeling things for God, thinking things for God, doing things for God. And they become, and there's no reason, again, it's beyond reason. And now, can we do this 24/7? Probably not. But can we do this at least 5 minutes of the day? Probably yes. That's what I'm saying. Let's do it at least 5 minutes every day. And then hopefully that will grow to 10 minutes, and then 20 minutes, and then an hour, and you increase that. But really, that's the teshuva me'ahava. That's the true return from love. Yeah. Okay, we can continue just to develop this idea here on page 193, unless again, there's any other comments or ideas, feel free to share. No, okay, so let's continue here on page 193 with great love. Does anyone want to read?
Want me to continue?
Okay, please, yes, please, Linda, go for it.
Great love is love that is greater than the natural love of the soul, love that is greater than life and before which life itself pales to insignificance. Hasidic teaching speaks of two classes of love for God, Ahavat Olam and Ahava Rabbah. Ahavat Olam, literally word love, is love that is related to the created reality, the soul's love for God as creator, as the essence of creation. Ahava Rabbah is greater than Ahavat Olam, greater than reality. It is the soul striving for the essence of God that transcends creation. This is the love termed by the Torah, quote, with all your might, unquote. The soul's yearning to dissolve its very being within God, its Father, as he is in essence, as he transcends his pervasiveness of the worlds. Mimal Kolamin, and even his transcendence of the worlds, the level on which he bears no relationship with the worlds at all. Through such love, which transcends the chain of evolution, a person transforms his entire nature, negates his very being, and is reborn as an entirely new creature.
Right. So this very profound stuff. So I'll try to explain it. So in general, love is a very loose word. Love is used so loosely that it's lost its meaning in our day and age. There is the lowest level of love, which is not even called love, but we use it all the time. And when I say I love potatoes, I love tomatoes, I love apples, I love fish. If you really love fish,
You wouldn't
then
eat
you
it.
would leave them in the ocean to swim. You don't really love fish, you love yourself. You love the pleasure that the fish bring you, so you love yourself. So that's not a love that is even included in you. That's not love. But then you have two additional levels of love. There's what's called Ahavat Olam and Ahava Rabbah. Ahavat Olam, in a way, is provoked by Olam. Olam meaning the world. When, for example, you contemplate God's world, you see the Camelback Mountain or the Pinnacle Mountain, the Pinnacle Peak Mountain, or the Thompson Peak Mountain, or whatever other mountain that you live nearby, and you say to yourself, wow, God's creation is so great. I'm in love with this God. Because you are meditating God's creation and you realize how awesome God is. Not only how awesome he is, but how all-embracing he is. And how he's, the greatest of all. And kamocha ba'elim Hashem. There's mi kamocha ba'elim Hashem. Who is like you? God. You realize that really he's omnipotent. That's Ahavat Olam. That's love that is triggered by the world that God created. But then there's a higher level, a level that doesn't need to be triggered by the world. A level that, again, like we were saying, that exists just because. My soul desires God just because, in a way, maybe the best way to explain this, I mean, you see that in relationships very often. In relationships, fine, there's stage one, where you love the other because he has a nice nose, or because he gives you company, or because he makes you feel good, or because he's humorous, or because of all sorts of reasons. So you love the world. You contemplate the other, or like you're contemplating God's world, you find reasons to love, and then you love. But there's love when if all of these reasons were non-existent, you still love the person. That is beyond reason. I remember meeting a hero of Israel who was a soldier in the Israeli army, who had to, not Aaron Karov, but someone else, Kfir was his name, who had to join the Israeli army at war, just shortly after his wedding. And unfortunately, he was severely injured at war that the doctors had to amputate his leg. Before the doctors amputated his leg, he wrote a letter to his wife, saying to his wife, look, I know this is not the person you intended to marry. My leg is I'm not going to be functioning like I was before. So I give you full permission to divorce me. His wife, receiving the letter, ran to the hospital and said to her husband, you think I married you for your face? You think I married you for your legs? I married you for you. And therefore, I'll stay married for the rest of my life. There's no external reason for my love. There's no leg that is a good excuse for my love. There's no world that is a good excuse for my love. There's no Camelback Mountain that is a good excuse for my love. There's love just because. And that's what's called Ahava Rabbah, great love. It's not connected to Olam anymore, to the world. It's just because. I love you just because. You see that in couples that are married for 50 years, 60 years, that their love now transcended reason. Maybe it started with reason, but it comes to a level where it transcends reason. There's no reason for it anymore. I just love you, just because. And that's the ultimate love towards God. And that's really the love of the soul. The love of the soul is a love which says, I just want to be with God. I don't care about your rewards. I don't care about your portion in the world to come. I really don't. I just want to be with you. I want to do what you want me to do. I want to think what you want me to think. I want to speak what you want me to speak. I just want to be you. I want my flame to return to your fire. That's the ultimate level. And that is why it is called also in Hasidic teachings, or in Kabbalah too, it's called Memale Kol Almin. It's a love that fills you, not a love that is external. Sovev Kol Almin. Sovev Kol Almin means that it surrounds the world. It's external because, again, the first type of love is dependent on the world. If Camelback Mountain is not there anymore, and that's my only reason to love God, then my love will disappear. Right? Say there's a bomb on a nuclear bomb on Camelback Mountain. It's not there. My love might disappear. But the Memale Kol Almin type of love, it fills me so deeply that it's not connected now to the outside, to the Sovev, to that which is surrounding me. It's just purely a love that has infiltrated my depths and has triggered really the soul itself, the purity of the soul itself. And that's a love, therefore, that no one can take away because it's not dependent on anything. So that's the highest level of love. And in a way, that's the love that the soul has all the time. We don't always feel it. We don't always act upon it. But that's the love that the soul feels all the time. And that's why, the soul really desires to, the soul desires to actualize this love, but it's not always given the opportunity. And again, that's why we should have at least 5 minutes a day in which we actualize that desire of the soul. And we do things just because, not because I have a Camelback Mountain, just because I love God. Love that has a reason is not a true love. Love that has no reason is true love. Nothing can take it away. That's the big idea.